Uh, I mean, fundamentally, I think there are two ways to look at your SOW workforce or service procurement workforce. You can look at it as a cost or a risk that's got to be minimized, or you can look at it as an asset that's got to be liberated and optimized. And I think if you look at it in a minimization way, that naturally leads you to a controlling type solution. You'll start with how do we define the workers? You'll apply procurement rules. You'll then have a degree of constrained sourcing. You'll have frustrated people in the supply chain because they'll feel they're disengaged from the people who they're doing the work for. And then when it comes to the back end that we've talked about in terms of, the tracking, the paying and the evaluating, it becomes much more transactionally centered. And I don't think those types of programs are sustainable beyond anything that may be causing short-term distress. So if a company's really hemorrhaging money, has got to suddenly make cost savings quickly, then of course you need some kind of control-based solution. But as a long-term sustainable program, it's got to be much more enabling. And this is where you start with the work. What do you want to get done? And then you have all manner of different options available to that end user. You're then creating facilitated sourcing that really encourages and incentivizes the supply chain to really work and offer you best value. And then the back end reflects reality. Projects do change. They need to flex. Scope isn't always properly understood at the start. And stakeholders change. Expectation change. Resources that you deck against a program will change. And so you have to acknowledge that there's going to be natural fluidity. And so that needs to be built into that successful solution. And so I think, more and more as companies look at how they're getting work done, they need to be much more enabling in their mind. The other thing I would say as a general point is, we talk in the recruitment industry about the employer value proposition.
Yeah.
Well, I think from an SOW perspective, it's all about your customer value proposition. And you want to be that customer of choice. And with the best one in the world, if you just add cost of sale by introducing unnecessary steps and unnecessary hurdles, you're not going to make yourself the customer of choice. But if you create a smoother, simple way for the suppliers to deliver value and to showcase the value they can offer to you, then you're going to be much more of a honeypot for the best suppliers in industry. And that's where you get competitive advantage.
Yeah, it's such a great point. I mean, it's still part of the war for talent. If you're getting a supplier to deliver the service for you, or whether you're trying to hire somebody or whether you're trying to get a contractor to do work for you. And I think that also ties into what I mentioned earlier around things like sustainability and diversity, and the culture of an organization and how good a fit that is in terms of your ESG profile and fit when you look at supplier versus client. And it works both ways. So people want to work with the great companies, suppliers want to work with the great companies, and companies want to work with the great suppliers. So I think that's a really good point that you make there. And it's intelligent companies, forward-thinking companies are definitely starting to think like that. But it's interesting, the other point you made around the kind of need for fluidity and the natural kind of knee-jerk for some companies to just want to exert control. I think what we're seeing is from a tech perspective, we're seeing a real balance between the need for really good, easy user interface and the ability to do self-serve. So you want to make life easier for the supplier as well. You want to make life easier for the buyer.